When people at Notre Dame want to hang out, chill out, or geek out, they go to the Quad.
When they want to play, pray, or just get away, they go to the Quad.
The Quad's a place to talk about important ideas with good friends.
And that's what we do here on the Pod Quad Show. We're two Holy Cross priests and friends having curiosity conversations with interesting people. Talking about life. What's up, everybody? I'm Father Pete McCormick, and this is
Father Nate Wills.
We are so excited to have you along with us on another episode of Pod Quad. So here's the deal. We have an amazing guest coming in today, and I'm just going to tell you right now, you're going to be hungry by the time it's all said and done. But I'm going to kick this one over to Nate because I do think you've got a question here.
No, so I do have a question for you. I'm wondering, are you a dessert guy?
The answer is, of course, yes. The answer is I love desserts, but they need to be in rank order. So, like,
okay.
I don't necessarily crave a dessert at the beginning of the meal, but by the end, that's all I can think of. People are talking to me, and I'm like, yeah, it'd be better if I had a chocolate chip cookie in my hand. So that's kind of the reality here. How about yourself?
So, you're a cookie guy, not a cake or pie or whatever?
Yeah, but I'll be willing to do it all. I think my favorite.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a five-tool kind of dessert eater. I have the ability to kind of go in a variety of different directions.
It's very inclusive of you.
Yeah, that's exactly how I roll. But if you said to me, hey, I have like a pear-based dessert.
Yes.
I don't know that I would want that. That's
Pear.
not necessarily the thing that gets me most excited.
Okay.
However, that being the case, there's a lot of things, whether it be kind of a fruity pie type thing, ice cream, chocolate chip cookie, a great dark chocolate cake,
Ooh.
all of those options, a good scone. All of those are really great options. That might be some foreshadowing.
That is a dessert for breakfast that's acceptable to have for breakfast.
How about yourself?
Oh, yeah. So I love desserts. And I grew up, my mom is a great baker. I grew up with all kinds of desserts. I'm a big, cookie person. I'm not as much of a pie guy. Oh. Kind of fruit desserts feel too healthy for me. I'm not doing that. I really do like chocolate. I mean, basically anything like gooey chocolate and even cake. It's gotta be a little gooey, a little moist. Also, crispy cookies. No, thank you.
No crispy cookies.
No, thank you. I'm a chewy cookie guy.
Okay.
And always, I everything with chocolates on the list.
Now, we have joked in the past that it might be just our moms watching this, but I think it's an important moment to give a shout out to Mrs. Wills here because she herself makes some amazing cookies. You want to tell folks a little bit about her cookie operation? Sue
Wills has sent cookies to my college buddies, to us when we were in the seminary. Mm-hmm. She's just really good at these. She has this signature kind of cookies, these little cutout cookies. Yeah, they're butter cookie. I don't know. They're amazing.
Yep.
And in different seasonal shapes. Yes. She'll send them to the seminary. She would send them and decorate these little boxes. And there'd be guys waiting in the mailroom. They're like, you got a package. Do you want to open it? I was
one of those people.
Do you want to open it right now? And I'm like, yeah, sure. Here's a cookie. And people in my office know, and she's going to send cookies. Anyway, it's really great. My sister now has become the decorator. Okay. Because she's really artistic. So the two of them, powerhouse.
Oh, man, that's awesome.
Dream team.
That's awesome. Well, listen, as someone who has received and eaten many of your mom's cookies, I'm very grateful.
It's pretty awesome. Well, should we get into it? We've got a great guest for you today, the executive pastry chef for the University of Notre Dame, Sinai Vespie. Here's our conversation with her. All right, here we are with our guest, Sinai Vespie. Thanks so much for joining us on the Pod Quad. We're just thrilled that you're here.
Thank you very much for having me.
Absolutely. Super psyched. And I'm going to introduce her just a little bit, give you a little sense of what Sinai does here at Notre Dame. So correct me if I'm wrong in this. So she's the executive pastry chef here at the University of Notre Dame. She did her training at Le Cordon Bleu in Orlando, Florida as a pastry chef there, and then came here to Notre Dame. In 2020, very cool, she actually appeared on the Food Network's Holiday Baking Challenge?
Halloween Baking Championship.
Halloween Baking Championship.
Yes.
And won it all. She won the whole thing. It's pretty amazing. I know, the crowd goes wild, right? And since then, she's been here as Notre Dame's executive pastry chef. Welcome.
Yes.
So glad you're here,
Thank
Chef.
you very much for having me.
Yeah. So did I miss anything on the intro?
Well, one recent thing.
Okay.
Yes. I was recently a part of Team USA, representing in the Culinary Olympics in Germany. And we
Nice.
won double silver medals.
Nice.
It's a super cool experience.
So when you talk about having won double silver, what did you win them for? Like, was there a specific dish? Was there a specific pastry? What happened here?
So
Or do you
there's-
have to do like Olympic things while you're baking? Like, do you have to
I mean,
do
that
like,
would be cool.
like gymnastics, but also make bread?
They maybe should think about throwing that in there too. I mean,
Yeah, bread nastics.
not
you got it.
exactly. So there was 2 competitions that we were a part of. One was called the Chef's Table, which is a 7-course meal
Whoa.
for 10 people, and they had 6 hours to produce it.
Oh my gosh.
And then the other competition was basically like a plated meal, 3-course meal for 110 people, and they had 5 hours to cook it.
For 110 people.
And you only had how many hours?
5.
5 hours.
And you were doing all the pastry stuff. Oh, yeah.
And then 2 hours to serve, like to run service
Wow.
of all 3 courses for the 110 people.
I have a simple question. How do I get to sign up to be a judge for this?
There's actually, it's pretty extensive.
Really?
Yeah, like you have to go through a lot of testing and all sorts of classes and stuff just to be a judge.
I feel like we
Yeah,
wouldn't
it's
pass
very
that.
I don't think so.
intricate. Yes.
One time I was invited by one of our dorms on campus to serve as a judge, and the way this competition worked was there was a mystery element. And so in this particular instance, it was Greek yogurt, which I do not like. And so every single dish that was served to me was some version of Greek yogurt. And I had to pretend like, oh, this is so delicious. And meanwhile, I'm thinking, how quickly before I can leave and brush my teeth?
So I take it nobody succeeded at doing something with Greek yogurt to make you like
won,
it.
But I didn't like any of it.
Okay.
Like nobody.
Hey,
That-
sorry about that.
It's okay. So here's the question. As you think about your incredible career, what's led you to this point? What are some of the ways that you got here?
Oh, perseverance and hard work.
Yeah.
Take lots of notes.
Yeah.
Goodness. So my grandmother and my uncle were bakers. My grandmother made everyone's birthday cakes growing up. And my uncle took after her. I remember being 8, 9 years old, just like being stuck to the decorating window at the bakery he worked at and just watched him decorating cakes and doing desserts and stuff. So when I grew up, I wanted to be a pastry chef.
Yeah.
And I mean, initially, I just wanted to do wedding cakes. That is one of my biggest passions. I
Really?
love making wedding cakes. I love, especially when I'm given creative freedom,
Uh-huh.
because then it really like pushes me to be more creative and think outside the lines and come out with cooler stuff.
I'm
So-
dying to ask this question then. What makes for a great wedding cake in your mind? If we just cut you
It's a
loose
great
and said,
question.
listen, we've got sugar, we've got flour, what would you say
Wait,
then?
what else goes into a
I
wedding
have
cake,
no
Pete?
idea.
I'm curious.
Eggs, maybe. Eggs. Love.
Love.
Definitely have to put love in there. So the very first chef I ever worked for in
Yeah.
a bakery, he had this thing, and you have to have an equal ratio of cake to filling.
Ooh.
And so I also don't like using just buttercream as fillings in my cakes. I like using custards and curds, fruit fillings, and stuff like that, because you already have buttercream on the outside.
Got you.
So I feel like the butter just becomes, it's too much fat and all that. So definitely fruit fillings, custard fillings, equal ratios, and definitely a moist cake.
Thank you.
Like, it has to have good flavor. Your fruit fillings have to be fresh, like using the best ingredients you can.
Yep.
Like, that's what makes a good cake.
Because here's the deal. Like, we haven't made many cakes, but the two of us have gone to a lot of wedding receptions.
Because I
bet.
believe this summer I've probably made over 30 wedding
Wow.
cakes.
It's
Like,
okay.
there were weekends where I had 3
Yeah.
in
It's
a day. So it's kind of a blur.
It's
right
all right.
now.
I did 6 weddings this summer, and I lost track too. I was just calling them whatever. It's fine.
I mean, I would too. That's a lot.
I'm just kidding.
That's a
I
lot.
love all the people that I did.
That's
their
a lot of
wedding for.
gifting too.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. I
He
mean,
gifts them with their presents.
Oh.
With his presents, I should say.
Well, there you go.
I'm a good eater. Get their money's worth. That's awesome. So very cool. So you talked about your uncle, your grandma, and this other chef. Tell us about some of either them or other people who have had an impact on you, and have really taught you a lot about your craft.
Most definitely. Like I said, my very first executive pastry chef that I worked for, his name's Laurent Bernard. So many accolades, a two-time world pastry champion, and he just had this thing for excellence. Wow. And he had it no other way. It was his way, and it had to be perfect. And it taught me precision. It taught me to just work faster and keep pushing myself, and be better and do better. So I'm very grateful for him for those things. Mm-hmm. And then also through the years, different colleagues in pastry, we have a network, right? So we just call each other when we're stumped. Or, hey, I want to do something with prickly pear.
Wow.
Or dragon fruit, like different things, and we just bounce ideas off each other. So that's awesome. My Food Network friends, we still keep in touch.
Okay.
Some of us.
Oh my!
Yes.
No big deal.
Yes.
That's awesome.
So, and then also, the pastry coach for the Olympic team.
Yeah.
Her name is Susan Notter.
Uh-huh.
Her and actually her ex-husband, the two of them basically brought chocolate up to a level. They're responsible for so many things.
Oh wow.
I look up to her. She's like just amazing. One of the most amazing chocolatiers I've ever met.
That's awesome.
And it's fantastic that I get to call her a friend.
Anybody
And
who can make chocolate, which is objectively sublime,
Yes.
better, they got my respect.
Yes, she does some amazing work. She's in Alabama though, so. But she does great work. Definitely showpieces, like just the things that she makes with her hands are just above just anything
That's
I can do.
fantastic.
I feel like it's just above my level.
So here's my question for you. When you think about your career, there's always the first time when you think to yourself, I just made this.
Mm-hmm.
So can you talk about a time when obviously there's a lot of trial and error, I would imagine, in there. But the first time you put that pastry on a dish and you said, I'm really proud of this. What was that, if you can recall?
Whew, there's so many times because, you just keep pushing the bar.
Yes.
So I'm going to tell you 2 times.
Great.
Because these 2 times are they're just ringing a bell right now. So right before, literally a few weeks before I came to do my interview here, I had signed up to do a chocolate showpiece competition, which I had never done.
Uh-huh.
I normally don't do chocolate showpieces because I've never had like a proper room and like equipment and stuff to do these things. So this was like the first time that I've actually put a showpiece together.
Okay.
And then in this competition, you were allowed to have like an apprentice. And I called my friend in Georgia and I said, hey, I know we haven't worked together in 9 years.
However,
why don't you join me in Texas?
Wow.
And let's do this competition.
yes. what
And
happened?
she was in. So she did the sugar work. She did sugar and pastillage pieces, and I did all the chocolate pieces.
Yeah.
We came together. We had small disasters, but we made it happen.
Yes.
And I won a gold medal.
That's awesome. That is fantastic.
So that's crazy, right? We hadn't worked together in 9 years. We come together for the first time. We never practiced, never anything. Like, we never put any other stuff together, okay?
Wow.
And
Dream team.
we won a gold.
Dream team.
Right? And then fast forward, we hosted the Logan Garden Party here. And this is just like a prime example of how like I love being given creative freedom and like give me a theme. Tell me to go all out. So from the first talks of this event, traditionally it was done in a garden. And the second that I heard garden and that they were going to continue in the room was going to look like a garden, I went down the rabbit hole and did Alice in Wonderland.
Oh, nice. That's awesome.
So I'm like, tea party. And so we made the dessert to actually look like a teacup.
No way.
Yes. It had the handle and all. It was an upside down dome, and it had 3 different inserts inside of it. So when you cut into it, it had 3 different colors.
That's so cool.
And then the cream on top, a gold chocolate handle. Yes.
I love that.
This was my favorite dessert to date.
That's amazing.
And people cleaned the plates. So it didn't just look pretty. It was delicious.
It was also good.
That's so cool. So I love that idea of, creating something. I like that little idea of magic, right? Like it's something where it's, like it looks like something else, but it's, really thoughtful. And I think I see like being a pastry chef from the outside as kind of right at the middle of art and science, right? Like you have to think about the temperatures. You got to make sure that everything is the right proportions. You don't want anything like overdone or soggy or, but as well, you got to think about the presentation, right? Like people say we eat with our eyes, right? And you want something to be beautiful and tasty. So in that continuum of like between scientist and artist, like where do you see yourself?
Right in the middle.
Yeah?
Definitely, you have to have like, it's like yin and yang. Like you have to, obviously sometimes you're going to lean a little bit more one way than the other, but you kind of just have to have like an equal amount of talent in both areas. And that comes with time. Because I can tell you that my first wedding cake that I did, I can look at that picture and look at a picture of a cake I did this year, and it's 1,000 light years different.
Wow.
So
what
it's
came
all
to you
about practice.
What came to you first? Were you more of like more naturally kind of the baker, the scientist, and the artistic stuff came later with more practice and stuff, or was it the other way around?
I would say the baking came first.
Uh-huh.
So I learned that, and through baking and decorating and like learning all the different skills, I started developing that artistic side as I went along. But definitely the chemistry is up here, because you can be a great decorator, but if your cakes suck, that doesn't matter.
That's a problem.
I mean,
nobody wants that.
If you can make it look like a Van Gogh. Oh, I'm hand painted a Van Gogh on a wedding cake this year.
Come on.
You did?
Yes.
Like Starry Starry Night? What's going on here?
No, wheat fields.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
Yeah, that was another proud
we'd
moment.
like you to put, by the way, a piece of art on your piece of art.
Yeah. Yep.
Wow.
And I said I would do it. That's the crazy part. So you have to, so you have to have equal amounts of the scientist, the mad scientist, the artist, and a little bit of crazy in there.
That's awesome.
There's got to be a little bit of crazy.
Okay, so you have been exposed to a lot of people out there.
Yes.
And you mentioned earlier your Food Network friends.
Yes.
Okay, so I've got a question for you about like, there are people who will just dial into the Food Network and other channels like it, and they just want to watch other people making and eating food, which to me feels horrible, because then I go and open up my refrigerator and see none of those things. So why do people do that to themselves? Why is this genre so interesting? Is it tapping into something in our kind of deep psyche about eating great foods and being around one another? Or I'm kind of coming to you as the expert. Why do people clamor for such a thing?
To go on baking shows because we're crazy. No, actually, competition is one of the best ways to elevate your talent, to keep pushing yourself, because you know, I can come to work every day and everybody's like, oh,
Yeah.
I love your desserts. Everything's so great. Everything's awesome. And as I go along, yes, I push myself, but I'm not under the time restraints and ingredient restraints and equipment restraints that I would have in a competition.
Sure.
So the more you compete, the more you develop creative ways to make more with less, basically. And then, oh crap, this didn't work. I got to think on the fly. Right? I got an hour left. Like, we have to figure this out. So that also pushes you to be more creative and think outside the lines even more to fix it when something goes wrong as well. So
I love that notion of like competition really challenging you to push yourself and surrounding yourself with excellence. I think that's really important.
it is.
That's really neat.
And I think about that a little bit in terms of like homiletics, actually, because sometimes it's really easy. Like you stand at the back of Mass, people are like, I loved your homily, I loved your homily. Or it's like, thanks so much for Mass today, Father. But I'm like, I want to grow too.
Feedback.
Yeah, I want feedback and want to figure out a way. So like, let me know if you got some feedback. But regardless, the point is,
Be
right,
nice, but
but the point is like, how do we naturally find ways to continue to kind of grow
Right.
and develop in the space that we're in?
Right.
So a couple years ago, our buddy Father Jim Gallagher, who's a really good baker, he's really good at bread and all this stuff. He was telling us about how to make croissants, right? And he was like, "Oh, you know, you do this and then this and this." And I'm like, I bet I could try that. And so I looked up a YouTube video about how to make a croissant, or as the French say, croissant,
A croissant.
croissant. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. Like you have to like do layers and butter at the right temperature, and then like wait to let it rise, and then you do another layer, and then you fold it, and then it was unbelievably complicated to me.
Yes.
And so I was like, no, forget it. I gave up. Like I just watched the video. I'm like, that's not for me.
Yeah.
But I really appreciate croissants, and so I tend to think. I mean, there's a lot of people I know. I mentioned our buddy Father Jim. My sister's a great baker. My mom's a great baker. My friend Meg Nonson's a great baker. Like all these people, I think it sort of inculcates some virtues in people, right? Like patience. I think about trust, prudence, perseverance, among others. What virtues do you think being a pastry chef has really built in you?
A lot. I mean, I can't count them. But definitely patience. Baking is patience. You cannot rush it. You can't just throw some stuff in a bowl and make a loaf of bread. And definitely not croissants. that is croissants is a true labor of love. You have to love it. Like it has to be a passion. It has to come from the heart. Otherwise, if you're just doing this to collect a paycheck, it's just not. It's not going to be the same. Right?
That makes so much sense. I love that idea that you got to love it, right? And that's how it makes sense. That's how that perseverance and patience grows. Yeah, that's really thoughtful.
Yes.
Now, I've got a question for you, Father Nate.
Yes.
Do you happen to have any, perhaps, examples?
So, all right. So this, I stopped by Cafe J at over at the Morrison. Shout out to my guy Brian. Have you ever met this
Brian's
guy Brian?
awesome.
No, I've not met Brian.
Okay.
Official.
Do yourself a favor and try to make Brian laugh.
Yes.
If he laughs,
he's
it will
got
shake
the most
walls.
contagious laugh.
It's amazing. Okay,
Yes.
so I went over there and I got, sorry for those of you who are just listening to this on Spotify or on Apple Music. Thank you for doing that. But you can't see this, so watch it on YouTube so you can see these beautiful pastries. Okay, so I got this. Can you tell us about this? I don't know if anybody can see this, but this is an amazing croissant. But it's like, it's unbelievable. So it's got not only normal croissant stuff, but it has literal gold leaf on top. Can you tell us about this, chef?
Absolutely. So this is our blue gold croissant. It's made with all butter.
Okay.
We specifically had it custom made
Awesome.
with our colors just for football season. So everyone, please, I hope that you can make it to enjoy one in Cafe J before they're all gone because there's limited amounts.
Really?
Yes.
You're gonna run out
And
of gold.
they are they are filled with vanilla pastry cream.
Ooh.
And they are very delicious and buttery.
That's awesome.
I would stick one in a very high heat oven for a few minutes just to get it really nice and crunchy on the outside again and eat it with coffee.
That is amazing.
Do you have a recommendation in terms of high heat for oven for those of us who might be not as informed?
So because there's pastry cream on the inside, you don't want it to be in the oven for
Yep.
a long amount of time.
Yep.
So I would do like 450 for 2-3 minutes
2-3
just to
minutes.
warm up the outside and get that butter crispy outside again. And then enjoy.
Fantastic.
Okay.
I may not wait for that.
I don't think it's.
I mean, it's delicious as it is.
It's definitely
very
gonna make
good.
it out of this room. Okay, here's what else I brought. This is a. I mean, it's like dense. Like I think this stick is gonna break. Tell us what this is.
I hope it doesn't break.
Yeah, no, it's beautiful.
So that is a cakesicle.
Cakesicle.
So this is one of the ways that we reuse. It's for saving, reducing food waste, basically. So one of our cakes that we do at the restaurant at Roar's, the Domer.
Which is delicious, by the way.
Thank you.
I'm a big fan of the Domer.
Thank you.
Yeah, shout out to the Domer.
I love that cake. So the scraps, the tops that we cut off from the cakes,
Yeah.
we basically make like cake pop filling, but we press it into a popsicle mold and then we dip it in chocolate. Actually, we add flavorings to that. So this one's obviously coffee because it's decorated with a coffee bean. We've done raspberry, we've done peanut butter.
I notice most people do cake pops, and you're like, look, that's not enough. We're doing the whole cakesicle.
Yeah.
I mean, I appreciate the expansiveness there.
Yeah. And so a little thing that I like doing rather than normally when you make a cake pop filling, you take your cake scraps and you add a bunch of buttercream until it's like cookie dough consistency. I don't like that.
Yes.
I do not like cake pops, to be honest.
Okay.
We'll
agree to disagree. That's fine.
I just don't want to waste food, so we're doing cakesicles. But
So what do you mix
instead
it
of
with then? Yeah.
jam, like fruit fillings and stuff, whatever flavorings we're using, that's what's going in it. Ganache. So instead of using buttercream and putting more butter into an already delicious cake, I'm adding in what I would use into a layer
That's
of the
awesome.
cake instead of the buttercream. So
Fantastic. Okay, here's the last one. I've got this beautiful scone.
those delicious things.
Look at that.
Yeah.
What? So tell us, Chef, what is this guy?
That is our crayon orange scone. It is delicious. It's nice and crunchy on the outside. I love the orange glaze on top. It's got a nice zing, and it's like great with a chai.
Oh, China. Very nice.
Well, now you're even
That's
offering
awesome.
things to pair these
Yeah.
snacks
Well,
with.
you
I
know,
mean,
I do what I
Next
can.
level.
I want to point out that I was not hungry at the beginning of this conversation, and
You're
now
welcome.
I don't know how
Well, at
you
least you
make
have
it
snacks.
through a day. I don't know how you make it through a day. I would be like, lay off me, I'm starving.
Well, honestly, after a while, you basically eat it to taste it because you have to taste it.
Yes.
But you get tired of eating
Eating.
those things over and over. There's very few things left that like if I see it coming out of the oven or that I'm like, I have to have
Whoa.
this. Like,
I just have to ask you, what is one of those things?
Totally.
it's weird. Pâte à choux. So
What?
it's called pâte à choux.
Okay.
So it's the shells, eclair shells and cream puff shells.
Yes.
I like the dough,
Okay.
like with the shells right when they come out of the oven and they're still warm. I absolutely love them. They're like they're savory almost. Like there's barely any sugar in the dough, but I just love the crunchiness and texture. and flavor.
Patachoux, huh?
Patachoux.
Another thing, let's see. Anything with hazelnuts.
Oh.
Oh, wow.
So, going back to the patachoux, we make a version of a rocher.
Mm-hmm.
Rochers are my favorite chocolates. The little
Is it
gold.
Italian? Italian chocolate?
Yeah,
Sounds French, but I know what
think
you're talking
it's
about. I know what you're talking about.
French.
Yeah.
Ferrero.
Yeah.
It might be. No, I think it might be Spanish actually.
Oh, it's a little,
Like
a little
from Spain?
hazelnut. Yeah.
Yeah,
So good.
I think it might be from Spain. Ferrero Rocher. But anyways, I do my own version with a cream puff.
That feels like
And then there's like this like milk chocolate crunchy coating with like little chunks of hazelnuts and stuff. It's so good.
Wow.
I can eat like 20 of them. And then last but not least, frozen cheesecake.
Frozen cheesecake.
I love frozen cheesecake.
Really?
Yeah.
So I don't know if I've ever seen a frozen cheesecake, and I've been to my fair share of
Just
cheesecake
get
factories.
you some cheesecake and throw it in the freezer.
Okay, that's it. That's all you gotta
Yeah.
do. Okay, I didn't know there was like a
It's
special
so good.
combination you need for this.
It's like better than ice cream, I think.
Wow.
Because
That's
it's
high
like
praise.
creamy and cheesy.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't melt as fast.
I'm a big cheesecake fan.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
try it.
I
All right,
love
chef.
it.
Before I eat this table, I'm gonna ask you one question. What's one piece of advice that you've been given that you'd want to share with Pod Quad Nation? What's one piece of advice do you think, this is something I live by, and man, I'd love to share it?
Oh, goodness. I've been given so many good tidbits. I don't know that anyone has personally said this to me, but I say this to my kids.
Uh-huh.
And best advice I could give is find what sets your heart on fire
Yeah.
and do what you love. Just that's the only way to be happy with what you're doing.
Yeah.
If you don't like your work, you have to do something about it or you're just going to be unhappy for the rest of your life. Right? So just like I tell my kids, find your passion, find what sets your soul on fire and do that. Figure out a way to make your own dreams come true because no one's going to do that for you.
That's true. That's
You
true.
know? So
That's great advice.
That's best.
Thank you. Well, Chef Sinai Vespie, thank you so much for being with us here on the Pod Quad. Thank you for these amazing treats. And I think we're just gonna dig into these and eat these for the rest of the day. You're gonna go into a total food sugar coma. But just grateful for all you do
Thank
to
you.
make Notre Dame not just a great place to be, but also beautiful and wonderful, extending hospitality not only to just to us who are here, but also to visitors to Notre Dame. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Happy to be here. Happy to be part of the family. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
We are back now, and it's time for our favorite part of this entire podcast, the juice box.
Juice
you know
box.
what? Here's the deal. In addition to the juice, we also brought some desserts. And who doesn't want a few extra desserts? Compliments of Chef Sinai Vespie. Seriously, how great was that conversation?
She's amazing. And
Yep.
did you know that this is actually cake? Look. No, it's not. It's not cake. She was amazing. Just so interesting and like to think some of the behind the scenes of what actually happens on some of this. It's just really inspiring, and it was neat to hear about her life story.
Yes.
And just the way she's just having such an impact here.
Something that would otherwise stress me out. Like, I'll tell you a quick story. Years ago when I was in the seminary, we auctioned off, I was working at a parish, we auctioned off a steak dinner.
Okay.
And I was marketed as the chef guy. I was going to do what Chef Sinai does. And so everyone gets there, everything's going fine, and then they leave me alone with their grill and all these really high-end steaks, to which I realize I have no idea what I'm doing. At one point, I walk in, I'm like, hey, how do people like to have their steaks done? And they're like, oh, I'm a medium well, and I'm rare. Got you. And I go back out, and I'm like, I don't know. And this is like
What
early
did you
days,
do?
This is early days of the internet, so I can't look at it. And at that point, I'm like, does it look pink? Take it off. People were so polite. These steaks were abysmal. And I'm sitting there, and then the worst part about that is there was nowhere I could run. I was then required to sit and eat with them.
How's everybody enjoying?
Is everyone enjoying their steaks? So like when she was talking, I was breaking out into hives thinking about that particular moment. But when I think about what's juicing me up about her conversation is, here's this
Wait,
woman.
while you're saying that,
Yes?
I'm gonna actually enjoy one of the cakesicle here.
Okay.
So yeah, you just go ahead.
Okay, I'll
I'm
continue to talk.
I'm gonna dig right into this.
So when I was listening to her,
Uh-huh.
the way that, and actually you eating this is perfect, right? Because like, here's this woman who's accomplished so much, and she continues to push the envelope. She continues to ask herself, what else am I capable of? What through creativity might I discover? And I just love that. At that point, she's moved past the phase of like learning the fundamentals, and at this point, she's in absolute elite air.
That's right.
So to see now what I love about, and I think this is where it kind of carries over into our lives of faith, like when we live passionately the gifts and the talents that we've received, others begin to benefit. Like you and I are benefiting immensely from her unique skill set, from her passion, which would otherwise stress me out. I can't speak on behalf of you, but it would certainly stress me out.
Totally.
But here we are, like enjoying the fruit of her labor. And how cool is that?
I think it's totally awesome. I love that idea too of like putting expertise, creativity into something that like everyone can enjoy. Like you really can see how that expertise is like live right in front of our eyes. Okay, that's awesome. I have a follow-up question while you're eating your scone.
No, try to say more. This is the most articulate I'll be.
Okay, so what brought me juice here? I would say the answer she gave about why you kind of do what you do, right? And what makes sense of all this stuff? Making something like a croissant, right? Like putting all the time into this stuff and the intricacy. I mean, that just that would be so much, and I think I'd just be overwhelmed. And what makes sense of it is love.
Yeah.
What makes sense of it is the passion that she has for what she's doing, and that doesn't make sense to other people.
Yeah.
I remember I went to med school one day with my older brother when he was in med school, and I was like. It was like blah 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 chemotherapy blah 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 blah, blah Tylenol. Like I just understood like every 12th word.
Yep.
And I walked out of there and I was like, oh my gosh, that was the worst thing ever. And he's like, what are you talking about? It was amazing. We learned about this disease and whatever. And he's like, it was fascinating. And you just see like, I love that journey for you, right? Like
I'm so happy for you right now.
I mean, that's why he's a great physician, right? Is because he loves that. Similarly, I think my ordination weekend when he came and he's like, "We're going to church again." And
didn't we just do this?
Faithful person, but like it's a lot of worship, right? It's a lot of liturgy, and I think what you love determines where you're going to spend your life, your energy. It changes the way that you experience the world. You can actually put patience into it. Think about a parent, right, who's not getting any sleep because of their newborn. They're doing it out of love.
That's right.
I think we just have to kind of lean into the things that we love, and that gives us energy. That gives us juice. That gives us the passion and patience and all that stuff to really grow and to become more and more the person God has made us.
I think that I don't know that there's a better way to stop a podcast conversation than on what you just said.
That's awesome. Because I'm glad we're stopping this because I'm about to house all these desserts and I am one step closer to type 2 diabetes. I'll tell you what. So, no, I'm excited, grateful for Chef to come here, and grateful for all of our listeners. Thank you very much. Be sure to like or subscribe on all of these platforms. And if you haven't watched the show on YouTube, I'd recommend you come and check out what these pastries actually look like. They're pretty phenomenal. Thanks so much, and we'll see you on the quad.